Ok chicos, en este video nosotros vamos a hablar del presente, de los verbos regulares y en este screencast nosotros vamos a concentrar en los verbos de IR, so IR verbs. We've already talked about AR verbs in one screencast, we've talked about ER and ER verbs in another screencast, so somos expertos. We're experts on that stuff, AR and ER verbs in the present tense. Now let's take a look and concentrate on our IR verbs. So vamos a empezar. Let's open up another page here and start to talk about these IR verbs. So IR verbs are verbs that end in an IR in Spanish. They're probably the least common category, but there's a bunch of them. And a common one that we use all the time is the verb vivir, which means to live. And that's obviously a verb that we've been using in the identity stuff and that we use very commonly. So, ¿cómo usamos este verbo en el presente? How do we use it in the present tense? Well, like any other verb, the first thing we need to do is we take our verb, our infinitive, and we figure out what the root is. We get the root by cutting off the IR, the ending of the verb, which means our root is this, VIV, or vive. And we attach our endings onto that. So the key bit of information here is what are the endings for IR verbs, IR verbs are just a little bit different than ER verbs. So, let's go do it. The O form is yo vivo, which means I live. See, there's no difference here. AR, ER, and IR verbs all end in an O for the O form. So whenever you're talking about yourself, all you have to remember is to add an O onto the root in any verb, AR, ER, or IR. There are some irregulars, but we haven't gotten to those yet, so don't worry about it. The to form means you, right? What do you do with this one? Vives, that's your ending. This should look familiar. It's the same as your ER verb. There's no difference. Ele usted, which is the one that I keep sort of making reference to, making sure that you guys know that there's three forms here and what they mean. El meaning he, ella meaning she, and usted meaning you, but the formal you if you're speaking with somebody that you don't know or that's older than you. This form, for all these three, is going to be vive, so our ending is the E. Now notice what you see here. Every single one of these conjugations on the singular form are the same as ER verbs, no difference. So there's no difference in the singular side of things. Once you get to the plural side of the verbs, as we conjugate the plural, the nosotros form first of all, now we're going to see some difference. So the nosotros form, which is we, nosotros, you can probably take a guess, it's not vivemos, it's vivimos. It's an I ending. So this is where we see our first I. We also see a difference in the vosotros form, which again is not one that we're going to use too commonly, one that I don't really use in class. You all live, vivis. This is a weird one. I accent S. And finally, in the ellos, ellas, ustedes form, which I've been making a lot of reference to as well, these are the three forms with one set of endings. Ellos meaning they for all guys or guys and girls, ellas meaning they for all girls, and ustedes for you guys. The ending, or the verb form here is going to be viven, which means that our ending, sorry about that, is en. This, by the way, says viven. That was bad writing on my part. So, our ending is viven. So what do we notice here? The only ones that are different between the ER and the IR verbs are these two, where we have this I here and we have this I here. Other than that, they're the same. So let's review and let's put it all together. So we have talked about so far. Let me see here, I'm on the wrong page. Let's add another page. So we have talked about so far AR, ER, and IR verbs in this set of three screencasts that we've seen. Let's just go through the endings really quickly in different colors so that we can see them all together. And I'm not going to put the subjects. O, as, a, amos, ais, an. Predictably, for AR verbs, you're commonly using an A. For ER verbs, I'll do those in red. O, es, a, amos, eis, en. Predictably, for ER verbs, this O, this O, that was good. This E becomes common, the E in this verb, in these verb conjugations. And finally, the IR verb, this one's a little bit different. It's kind of hard to explain. I mean, it's O, es, a, imos, is, en. So it's kind of like in this one, I guess you'd have to say that you have really an E and an I element in it, but the I stuff only comes up in the plural form, not in this particular form here, which is just an en. How do you learn these? It's strict memorization. It's really just memorizing the forms and then being able to apply them. So if you're able to see some verbs here, if you are confronted with the verb, well actually let's do a different one. confronted with the verb escribir. And you want to say, with this verb, this is to write. You want to say in Spanish, I write. You should be able to follow the steps, and it's going to come more naturally after a while. Cut off your ending and add your O, so you know that I write is escribo. You're confronted with a verb like vender, and you want to say we sell. For this verb, this is the verb that means to sell. We sell, once again, you go to your root of the verb by cutting off the ER, and you add your ending. And this is an ER verb, so it's an EMOS ending. Vendemos. Now you have we sell. And then let's say you come across a verb like the verb bailar, which means to dance. And you want to say she dances. Well, we have this verb, the conjugation. You know that it's ella, you know that it's third person. You go to bail, right, which is your root of the verb, and then you add your ending. She dances, baila. And in this one, you get an idea to put ella so we know who we're talking about. Okay, so that's putting it all together. And, for some of you guys, this will take a little bit of time to learn. Some of you guys, it's a review. But this is really important stuff to know as far as being able to construct verbs and therefore being able to construct sentences and talking about actions. Muy bien. So that's it for our little review on the present tense regular verbs in Spanish. Muchas gracias por su atención. Nos vemos en clase. Chao.